The death of Joffrey is one of the biggest moments in Game of Thrones, which kicked off arguably one of the best seasons in the show and is part of one of the best books in the whole A Song of Ice and Fire series. But what if Joffrey didn't die? How would future events play out?
Dude, season 4 is like arguably the best Game of Thrones season, and it's so funny. We got a comment recently saying like, season 4 not that good or something like that. I'm like, what in the like? That is a
them right away.
huge.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, blocked absolutely. If you share that opinion, please just leave now. So for this what if, we're going to kind of be going off of the idea that Joffrey was still poisoned because the intent is still there to kill him, right? Like that's what's happening in this moment. Olenna is not happy with Joffrey's marriage to Marjorie, and, Littlefinger's doing his little shenanigans or whatever, so Joffrey basically takes in the poison and like flexes his body and awakens his hidden Baratheon blood to kill the poison within him. And he out-alphas the poison. And he lives on. So we're going to go into it. What would happen? Chain reaction.
Yeah, so my kind of what-if scenario, like you said, he takes the poison, but maybe he is damaged in some way, right? So, like, he can't hardly speak. It goes down his throat. Like you said, he fights it, but he's left scarred by this in some way, right? And I think his immediate reaction to this would be very similar to King Aerys II, a.k.a. the Mad King, where, he's touched really badly in a bad spot, and then he has a overreaction to this whole event. Aerys,
Right.
He's kidnapped at some point where Barristan then saves him, and then if for some reason he just never wants a knife by him, so then he grows his fingernails out super long to hopefully be in the Guinness World Record of nastiest king in the Seven Kingdoms.
Yes, super based, but yeah.
So I can see Joffrey going down that same trajectory of overreacting to an attack on him like this.
Yeah, I do too. But, dude, I mean, honestly, listen, overreacting and, like, fixating on the part of your body. So let's say it goes down his throat, and let's say he can no longer talk very well. Listen, in my opinion, if I eat something bad or I get poisoned down the throat, I'm not going to be, like, super throat conscious now. Like, that's not that sacred of a hole to me, okay? My body, I'll tell you right now, you know what my most sacred hole is? It's my ears. Like, don't go near my ear holes.
Not my guess. But
it's the most sacred of all holes.
But in the book, we get this with one of the Kingsguard. Jaime appoints this guy to be Tommen's, not cupbearer, but just basically taste tester, because I think he's the fattest one of all of them. He's like, dude, you like eating and drinking stuff, clearly based off your weight. You can be this now for King Tommen to ensure that nothing ever happens to him. So I would see maybe some person being like that to Joffrey, right? So maybe he doesn't have the overreaction where nothing enters that hole anymore of his, because that's a little unrealistic.
Right.
But maybe he has some measure like that to a degree where someone always tests his stuff for him. Also, I think what happens is he seeks revenge on Tyrion right away, because I still think he thinks Tyrion did it, right? He's pointing at Tyrion. I don't think he's just like, Tyrion, you don't have your shirt tucked in. Oh, your zipper's down, when he's pointing at him when he's getting choked. I don't think that's what he's communicating, right? What do you think Joffrey's communicating? What do you think his immediate action is after this?
I definitely think that he blames Tyrion or whatever, and Cersei's going to help with that too. Cersei is going to be leaving a snail trail at the opportunity to throw that little guy under the bus, of course. And Joffrey's going to be loving every second of it. And I know Tywin's alive here too. Joffrey still is the king. He has the ultimate authority. If he basically says, that guy did it, execute his ass now, it's still going to happen. It's still going to happen, and I do think that he would probably try to resort to that sort of thing right away. I don't know if he's speaking this or if he's using some kind of a Westerosi sign language here at this point. I don't know how well he can speak.
I think he can communicate execution fairly easy in sign language.
Like,
right?
points to him and does the little throat cut thing.
Yeah, yep.
It's like, oh, I can't believe he demanded that. Oh, so by the way, choosing a fat guy to be a taste tester, I would never do that. This fat guy, he clearly has no standards of what goes in his body. I don't trust him to taste is this taste okay, man? Does it taste like poison? I don't know. It tastes pretty good to me. Not to mention, he has so much body mass that, like, that amount of poison that somebody carefully crafted to kill my ladylike petite frame, it's not going to even affect this guy at all. He might, like, something like that. That might be all it is. So it's a bad move. Do you think that maybe Tywin would step in to prevent Tyrion's execution, maybe send him to the wall? Because remember, we've talked about this before. Tyrion is the successor to, or the heir, I should say, to Casterly Rock. And at this moment. And I know going to the wall, you don't have those kind of rights anymore. But I feel like that's not the end. I think you could probably get a king's pardon away from the wall, even if you're already there.
Right, so Tywin is kind of playing a chicken game, I think, with Jaime the whole time. And we see this play out in the show where Tywin is like, okay, I'm going to kind of keep threatening to kill your brother until you basically beg me to not do it. And then I'm going to demand that you're no longer the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and now you are back to being my heir again. So that's what happens, right, in the TV show.
Yeah. So for this, we can go that route. I never liked in the show that was a thing. It just seems weird. And I understand it's great. It's very advantageous for Tywin to have Jaime back as the heir to Casterly Rock, at least in terms of visuals, right? But I mean, the real win would actually be for both Tyrion and Jaime to have a place in Casterly Rock to be the heirs. I mean, those two people, because Jaime's not that smart and Tyrion's super smart, so kind of balances itself out, right? Like the optics with the actual brains behind the operation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that so much. So do you think that Tywin keeps Tyrion alive, or do you think he doesn't care?
I think he wants to keep him alive. I don't think Tywin's a very traditional guy. I don't think he believes kin slain is a good thing by any means. So Joffrey probably wants Tyrion dead as soon as possible. As time goes on, he probably gets more pissed off about it. I think Tywin actually is a person that holds Joffrey back, saying like, yeah, maybe we should do an investigation. And Joffrey's like, no, I want his head. And maybe Tywin's the one that walks Joffrey back a little bit by saying like, maybe you should just send him to the wall. Because as much as Tywin hates Tyrion and what he kind of represents in some aspects of his life, I still think he wants to use him as a political tool for him, because we see that in season 2 and in Clash of Kings, where he appoints Tyrion as Hand of the King in his stead while he's fighting the War of the Five Kings. So I don't think he thinks Tyrion as just a liability. He is definitely an asset, and by just sending him up to the wall, I think that's the best way you can do it, because like Tywin really does care about optics. And he says, the lion does not care of the thoughts of a lamb or of the stupid mouth breathers and King's Landing. But at the same time, he does care.
That's
like,
kind of
hey,
like Alan Rick. That's kind of like my
Tywin
impression. A little Alan Rickman-esque.
No.
Yes, it was.
But I think he does care about optics to a degree where we can't look weak. If we look weak, I'd rather look over aggressive, like with Jaime when he stabs Ned. He should have killed him right then. That's what Tywin was saying. He's like, you should have just killed him. We could have dealt with the aftermath, but at least we look strong instead of weak.
It's just Joffrey wants it so bad, and I do wonder how much weaker would it make him look if you kill him than not. And it's, you know what I mean?
But I think this is causing tension between Tywin and Joffrey. So no matter which way it goes, there's definitely, I think, a friction beginning at this point right away.
Listen,
and real quick, I want people comment down below. What do you think? This first step, how does Tywin deal with the Tyrion situation? Let us know down in the comments. And if it's a stupid comment, we're gonna delete it and block you from our channel.
Yeah, block from the channel. I will, and for sure, by the way, before you comment that, don't say that like there's going to be a Tyrion trial and it's going to turn out the same way it did in the show, because I don't think that's true. I think there's no way that Joffrey's going to have the patience to wait around for a trial situation. That's definitely not going to happen. We're going to operate off the idea he's either sending him to the wall or killing him, and how he kills him, I don't know. Belly full of wine and cock in his mouth. That's what he wanted, right?
Yeah, because that I guess he can get one of those. Well, okay. So I don't think there's a trial, so he's either going to be executed or, I guess it would be a trial by, like, it's a really quick trial, like, hey, the king sentences you to death. And I don't think you'll be able to ask for trial by combat by any means, right? So I don't think the Mountain dies. I don't think Oberyn dies, right? Shay is not put on trial. Shay was supposed to go over into Essos, right, by the protection of Tyrion, but then stays around. So she's still around to rear her ugly thought head.
Her ugly rear right in Tywin's face. No, and by the way, just a disclaimer, we've said this before, Tywin did not sleep with Shay. It was all an illusion. It was all a ploy to teach Tyrion a lesson. That's what I think. Tywin basically died for no reason in the show. It's very sad. At least in this, Tywin's still alive. He's free to drop his anacondas down the turlet whenever he wants to. Dude, that legendary one that he was about to drop when he died from... that thing was about to shake the castle if it made impact, and Tyrion didn't let it happen.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
If Cersei didn't burn down the Tower of the Hand, Tywin's turd would have just rocked the foundation of it. It would probably melt. It would have melted steel beams.
That's true, and very few things can do that. Okay, just go back for a second ago, though. Before we go to Shay, do you really think that tension would not appear between Joffrey and Tywin anyway, unless Tywin sees the light and sees that Joffrey is just, cleaning up the streets of King's Landing one dirty whore at a time? I don't think he's going to allow that, because you say, like, optics. If word gets out that this guy is, like, torturing common folk and stuff like that, it could happen. It could get out. Yeah. The only reason why that wasn't nipped in the bud earlier is because Cersei is so unbelievably weak with her kids.
Right. Tywin tries to manipulate Joffrey moving forward as much as he can, but I think he understands not only is he just a animal that he can't really tie down in any productive way, but he also sees that I think he's getting even more insane based off this failed assassination attempt. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's becoming more insane, Joffrey, while Tywin is just trying to pin him down. He's become this slippery boy has a kind of Raby-esque energy to him.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And you know what else is positive about all this too? We've already said, like, Tywin has already been the guy, under Aerys II, who the realm basically said, okay, the way that our lives are going right now in terms of the government is not so bad. And we all know that Aerys is not really running the show. We think it's Tywin. We believe this to be Tywin. So having that guy in this position as well right now, even if it gets out that Joffrey's doing some crazy shit, I think just having Tywin there, knowing they have a competent guy in the driver's seat, like the real driver's seat, right? I think that's going to be fine in terms of optics across the realm. If Tywin goes away, that's not good. That's not good. Now that's a serious blow. But in this whole what if situation, I think Tywin being alive is like the number one most important thing. And it changes a lot, I think. Like, for example, I don't know if you want to jump ahead this far, but like Mace Tyrell or the Tyrells in general, dude, I think he shoves his hand up Mace Tyrell's ass and wears him like a puppet. Like, there's...
And Mace willingly gives it, at least in the TV show.
Oh, yeah.
We're made to think that Mace is totally fine being a puppet as much as he can.
Well,
it's like, this hand, it feels actually pretty good. Oh, I'm the master of ships.
Yeah, exactly. But, in the books, Mace is not that giving, but then again, that's only because Marjorie is like being held by the faith militant. And so it's a little bit different. But
Faith militant won't ever come into play as long as Tywin's there, at least for a little bit.
Yeah, hell no.
But I don't know how long Tywin stays there for, because Marjorie is still going to be the wife of Joffrey. And I don't think they're having any conception, or they're going to have any situations where they'll be conceiving a child anytime soon. I don't think. I think Marjorie is very... She's going to... See, the difference with Marjorie and Lady Olenna is Marjorie's going to play the hand that's dealt to her, and Lady Olenna is going to try to stack the deck, right? So Lady Olenna is going to continue, I think, to try to kill Joffrey anytime she can. But Marjorie is going to try to weave in. I think a good depiction of it, I think I've said this on another video, where Marjorie's better than Dany video, I think it is. Marjorie is the flower that distracts you, while Lady Olenna, the Queen of Thorns, is the thing that's going to cut you, right? So Marjorie is going to try to weave her way into Joffrey's ear, even if it doesn't seem to be that benevolent at first. It's going to seem it's going to play to his weaknesses, or not? What would you say his weeknesses? It would be plays to
his desires.
Yeah,
in this situation,
right,
it's his desires, because we said this in our video too. If Marjorie had lived, or not Marjorie, if Joffrey had lived, I guess that was a little precursor to this. What if Joffrey lives, and let's say Tywin is off and he's resuming the war for a time, right? Like, because he has to. Like, there's still an active war going. There's a ton of conflict going on in the realm. He can't stay in King's Landing all the time, which is, by the way, another reason why it really sucks that they lost Tyrion in one of the two ways, because it would be great to be able to have him still here as his supplement hand. But either way, if Tywin's not in King's Landing right now, and Joffrey is still doing the things that he does, Marjorie's definitely going to end up killing somebody with Joffrey. Like, it's going to be a tag team torture kill session. There's no way it's not. Marjorie has no choice otherwise. And for this what if, I also don't want to entertain any idea of Olenna, the Queen of Thorns, successfully killing Joffrey in another way, at least not anytime soon. Mm-hmm. I still think that there's no reason why that would happen, and also security would be beefed up to such a massive extent.
Well,
I'm not even.
We have the taste tester now.
Oh yeah, the legendary rail thin Christian Bale from The Machinist taste tester. That's what I need. He values the taste of that food. But I'm not even convinced that Tywin doesn't suss out maybe that Olenna had something to do with it, or I guess maybe not. Maybe they just leave it to Tyrion and obviously Littlefinger. The fact that Littlefinger and Sansa disappear in that exact moment, which they still would, obviously they're involved. There's no way. Everybody's going to know.
Right. Well, I don't think, real quick side note on Tywin, I don't think Tywin is all that upset about Joffrey's death. He gets Tommen instead, so now he becomes way more of the king than he was before, and he's able to shape Tommen into his own image if he gets enough time with him. Joffrey basically is fully developed into a psychopath, and he's not able to control him at all. So having Tommen there is going to make it a lot easier for Tywin to press his influence in certain areas. So even though Lady Olenna definitely, and if he had a gun to his head, gun to his balls, who was it? I think he would point towards the Tyrells and probably Lady Olenna, the person that's only his intellectual match, at least in the TV show, for Tywin. And Kevin Lannister's around there in the books, right? At this point, if we did the what if, Kevin Lannister rules, and he's underrepresented, at least in the TV show, of his influence and his ability to, see things clearly on the board.
You're right. But, okay, in regards to the killing of Joffrey thing, yeah, Tywin didn't care, but he's still going to kill. They were still in the show, at least before he died. No, in the book. Okay, both in the book and the show, the real story of everything. After the events, the trial was going on, and I do think that Tywin was probably invested in finding out the real person that did this, because it's like, imagine this in your own like environment. Like if there was somebody that you worked with and you didn't know who it was, but they're a murderer and they, let's say, killed your boss. It's like, yeah, maybe you hate your boss, but now like if the next person in line gets up there and you know it's not them that was the murderer, aren't you kind of suspicious now? Like there's still a murderer on the loose.
Right.
And if I like the next guy to be put in there who's Tommen, like this murderer might just go kill Tommen now. Like what if it's just the guy who hates Lannisters? You know, like I'm surprised Oberyn wasn't more of like a suspect in this situation.
Well, I mean, he is a person that knows poisons, I think. So
Yeah,
I think
he is.
was
I know.
definitely a person that was
Maybe 2 on the nose.
Yeah, maybe 2 on the nose. And I don't know, because I think there's a rumor in the books, or at least a theory, I should say, that Tywin was slowly getting poisoned by Oberyn Martell. So in our what if, does he get poisoned by Oberyn and die? Is Tywin dead in the situation? Because if
that's too much headcanon.
you think so? I mean, that's the reason why a lot of people think he was, shitting his brains out. It wasn't because he just had some, ton of fiber that day, and he's just definitely letting it all loose. I think people were believing that Oberyn was poisoning Tywin. That's why his body stank so badly afterwards too. I think it's mostly because
poisoning with that disgusting Dornish food. Probably his normal, probably his
probably-
regular run-of-the-mill food, highest quality they make, and it was just so shit.
But
It wreaked havoc on the digestive system.
But I think Joffrey lashes out. Joffrey lashes out at his court too, because I think he was already getting mad at, who's his name? Or he wasn't mad, but definitely was talking shit to Jaime, being like, "Oh, you have one hand. Who are you gonna protect?" And so if this happens underneath Jaime's watch, I think he's kind of pissed off at Jaime. Jaime's the Lord Commander, right? So what punishment does Jaime get for that? That's one. And then 2, I think Marjorie is gonna try to drive the wedge even further between Tywin and Joffrey, and we were saying there's something developing there friction-wise, so I think Marjorie exploits that. I think we see the Tyrells, as much as they can, try to separate Joffrey from the Lannisters, even though Joffrey by himself is just this agent of chaos, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, Tywin being alive, I'm not even sure. I don't think Marjorie would be as aggressive in the way she does things, like talking down to Cersei and shit like that, like we see in the show or the book. But I think it would still happen, yeah, exactly like you say. The Jaime thing is weird because I do think that Joffrey would lash out at him, and I don't know. Tyrion's gone. There's a 0% chance that Tywin is going to let anything actually bad happen to Jaime. So it's like we talked about earlier, right? If Joffrey decides to dismiss Jaime from the Kingsguard, basically fires him or whatever, then he's back to being heir at Castle Rock. That's just a win-win-win situation. And you could kind of maybe just play Joffrey like a little kid, based on the reaction you give. That'll give him feedback to whether or not what he's doing is right by his own mind.
Tywin's
you're
all
fired,
about
Jaime.
that.
Like, oh no, please don't fire him. That's my son. Don't fire. I was so proud of him being on the Kingsguard. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then Joffrey's like, oh, okay. No, you're definitely fired, Jaime. Now you're definitely fired. You know what I mean? Like that's probably the way you have to take it. And I still don't like the idea that you could just be fired from the Kingsguard and then no repercussion, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, so I think, Joffrey's the one that did it before, and everyone was, I don't think everyone was okay with it, but they definitely got over it. So I think Joffrey does fire Jaime. He lashes out at him. I do think so. And maybe then we get a Jaime teaming up with Brienne trying to go find Sansa. Maybe that's his true calling in this what-if scenario as Jaime goes out with her. Because, what else is he going to do? Maybe he says, I'm going to go back to Casterly Rock. But instead, Casterly Rock. Yeah, dude. Craster's coming. The words of our channel.
So if they're looking for... Because before we made this video, this is what I was thinking about a little bit. I don't want to touch the North right now. But if we're talking about Littlefinger, he's a direct player, and he took off, and I think he would go to the Vale in the same way that he did in the real story. And I would say, the Red Wedding happened in the same way, so there's no reason to think that he wouldn't still kill Lysa, right? We're still going to get basically that exact same sequence of events.
I don't know how it changes at all, right?
Yeah, I don't know why it would change. There's no reason. Like, oh, no, Joffrey's alive. I can't kill Lysa now. She's too crazy to kill. Whatever. I don't know. But she dies the same way, and I think it's public knowledge at that point, right? Like Littlefinger becomes essentially Lord of the Vale. Everybody knows that. Do you think he would keep it a little bit of a secret if maybe now Jaime and Brienne are going to come looking for Sansa? But I guess why would he know they're going to do that? Well, so how do you think that all plays out?
Well, I don't think Jaime or Brienne knows Sansa is up at the Vale by any means, right? They're just going to keep looking through the Riverlands like we get in the book. Too. So they're going to be looking in the Riverlands for her, trying to find any way or any direction in which she might be. I know Brienne pretends to be her sister, or I think it's her sister. I don't know if it's cousin. Maybe it's cousin. But yeah, that she's looking for her sister through the Riverlands. And so I think that might be the path they go down instead. And hopefully Jaime gets his redemption arc still. I like it more in the books where we actually see him, attempting to rebrand himself instead of the Kingslayer. He's Sir Jaime the Golden Hand, or, like the Just or whatever, whatever kind of branding he wants to put himself in, later on.
Well, he grows out his hair again, and that's what I wish they followed more so from the books or whatever. He kind of took on this like edgy, dark persona, this depressed, defeated guy in the show. And he definitely, listen, we all grew to really like him in the show, even if you weren't on Team Lannister to begin with. You grew to like him a lot, and they obviously ended up fumbling and screwing it up. They gave him like the opposite of a redemption or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't mind, dude. Yeah, rebrand yourself a little bit. Maybe, plug Brienne a few times, like give it a try. Why not? So what do you think happens with them then? They just keep looking for Sansa, and then they find him, they don't, whatever. He's on his quest.
And maybe they go off and they meet Lady Stoneheart, because we know Brienne meets Lady Stoneheart, and if Jaime's with her, then maybe we'll get an exact face-to-face that we might be seeing later on in Winds of Winter.
I fucking hate Lady Stoneheart. Just literally the screaming, like the id, like the inner most primal form of Catelyn, the Wicked Witch of the North.
I got some questions for you. Some what if, this is a butterfly effect. Does anything change here? Joffrey doesn't die. Does Lysa Arryn still scream every climax or every motion that Littlefinger gives her?
I think she still screams every time, yeah.
Okay, good.
I don't think
that's
that changes.
Still screaming.
You know what? Maybe you think about it, but let us know in the comments. Does she still scream or no?
I think it's a hidden Tully ability that we didn't know about.
I think so too. It's like a special effect. Yeah, absolutely. Like, let us know in the comments. We'll do a deep lore video on the climactic screaming of Lysa in front of Littlefinger.
Well, so what happens with Dorne now? So Oberyn comes up there, King's Landing. He wants his revenge, doesn't get it. He's probably pacing around, looking at the mountain, trying to get something out of him. I don't think he's satisfied. If he goes back to Dorne, we definitely get different storylines going on within Sunspear, because the whole thing with Areola Martell, our favorite character in all of Game of Thrones, who's not in the TV show, she is trying to plot Marcella Baratheon's ascension, because they believe in, that women can inherit the throne down in Dorne. So that way, when
savages
Joffrey dies, Marcella should be the next person in the line of succession. So because Joffrey's not dead, we don't see that plot play out. But does Oberyn try to seek his revenge? Does he go down there to Doran Martell, his older brother, and kick him out of his wheelchair and say, "Get the fuck up, and we got to get up there and do something"?
Yeah. No, dude, I don't think so. I would love for there to be something crazy like that kind of happening, to have like a big shift or whatever. But I just don't think that's happening with Tywin around. Like, I could see maybe following the wedding and that whole little endeavor, I could see maybe, Oberyn looking over at the mountain all the time, and the mountain keeps glancing over and catching Oberyn looking at him with this like disgusting looks. It's really childish, dramatic, school drama type situation. But then in the end, I think Oberyn goes back to his old ways, just sleeping with as many women as possible and men, giving birth to more bastards, apparently caring about them all immensely and showering them with gifts and affection, which I don't buy for a split second. And just genuinely, I don't know, generally being a piece of shit. I don't think he really cares.
I want now an Oberyn Martell at the wedding with the mountain, which I don't think the mountain was at the wedding at all, right? But for some reason, I want to see him in this kind of banquet setting where Oberyn looks at him and is like, "What the hell does that mean?" It's whatever the hell you want it to mean.
Whatever the hell you want it to mean.
I want a Seinfeld, Frank Costanza versus Lane with the mountain and Oberyn Martell.
Exactly. That's the kind of thing I want, man. I want a sitcom type situation. I want to see the mountain go over to the banquet table, pick up a piece of cake, and right as his hand goes for it, Oberyn quick grabs that piece of cake that he was going to get, pretends like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there." That happens every time. It's really passive aggressive. I want to see passive aggressive Oberyn against the mountain. Yeah.
Give me my passive aggressive Oberyn / mountain arc in Game of Thrones, please and thank you.
And then if it happens, I mean, that could lead to the actual confrontation between them, and we might get the same exact outcome. If they start fighting, it only makes sense. Joffrey would be like, "Well, no, everybody. Let's just move this over to," where did they have the trial by combat? Like, what was that area they were in? Do you know?
No, I don't remember that exact area.
Yeah, just whatever.
There's
some unknown area
for it, but
yeah, but so let's go over to this legendary named area where we would have had a trial by combat if anybody had successfully killed me here today. And let's watch these two duke it out. And luckily, Oberyn came with his poisoned pike and the mountain just
A lot
gets
of peace.
flayed like normal. Sorry, I bet
hope-
that's popping really
Yeah, I
bad
hope
on
it
this
doesn't.
mic. It's right.
So
well.
what happens with Cersei though? Because she's not going to probably marry Loras at this point. At least I don't think it is. Tywin's really playing that angle with the Tyrells, right? That Cersei marries the Tyrells and kind of joins their family in another way. That way they're kind of really tied down with each other because Cersei is an asset that the Lannisters could use to join a house, but Cersei's going to ruin that relationship with that family. I don't think Tywin knows that, or at least is ignoring that fact. So there's that. I don't know what she does marriage-wise or if Joffrey keeps her within King's Landing. But also, because Joffrey doesn't die, we don't get that awesome, awkward banging scene of Jaime and Cersei over Joffrey's body, which, I mean, I think that's
Right.
a lot of people. It's in a lot of people's spank bank, so rest in peace that clip if this what if happened.
Oh, I just wish that Cersei had the short hair in that clip, from the end of the series, the like disgusting modern millennial woman haircut with the short bangs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if anybody has that haircut, unsubscribe. But I don't think much changes with Cersei. Like, again, this is another situation where I would like to say, oh, it's a what if, we can do whatever we want. Like, Cersei would go off and, marry Euron Greyjoy, and now there's this big alliance between Euron Greyjoy and the Lannisters and the Tyrells against Daenerys when she comes over. But no, I don't think that's the case. I think Cersei just hangs out. She's an old depressed bitch in King's Land. She's a dowager queen. Marjorie is just shitting all over all the time, even though it's passively or whatever. Joffrey's having the time of his life with Marjorie, probably doing these killing things, and Cersei can't take it. I guess she could just chill with Tommen, I suppose. Like, what's Tommen even doing now? Nothing?
Yeah, I would hope she'd have some self-reflection in this period if she has to kind of resort to hanging out with Tommen, because he's like literally the only thing he cares about is Sir Pounce, his little pussy cat, right? So Cersei's just like, ugh. Especially if Jaime leaves, her boy toy leaves. She's going to probably try to maybe get Marcella back up from Dorne, at least to visit and maybe keep everyone close, because she's going to be freaked out too because of the assassination attempt. So I think she goes off the rails a little bit, as we see she does in the regular timeline. But I think the only other huge impact we get, within the story is, of course, in the books, Bronn really doesn't have any effect on the story after Storm of Swords. Bronn is asked to be his champion, but he's like, dude, there's no way I'm not gonna be your champion. And then he doesn't do anything else. Bronn just kind of lives out his life, or is living his life, I should say, trying to inherit some sort of title right now. But so Bronn's really not in the picture. Stannis, I don't think he gets the Iron Bank to back him if Joffrey's still alive. I think there's still some stability in King's Landing, unlike what we had.
I think they keep making payments.
Yeah.
It's not even just that they like their stability. I think they keep making, because that's the only reason why the Iron Bank went to Stannis anyways, because they stopped making payments. But if you have Tywin there, see, this is why I say at the beginning, the biggest factor here is Tywin. And this guy, he's just a responsible dude in all ways. Like, there's no way he's just going to allow the Iron Bank of Braavos to default on that loan. It's just not going to happen. Maybe if he, took a loan out from, White Harbor or something. I don't know why that would happen, but if it's some lame place, right? At that point, he might default on a loan. But with the Iron Bank of Braavos, it's not going to happen. I think that's basically the case with all this stuff. Tywin basically holds together not the realm, but King's Landing, and probably the Reach along with that. Eventually, I mean, what do you see happening? This is the only other thing I'm unsure of. What do you think happens way down the road with the Lannister, Tyrell combined forces, who are not dealing with the High Sparrow and the Faith Militant, because there's no way Tywin would put up with that shit. Yeah. Versus the North now. What do you think happens there?
Is Tyrion up at the wall?
I'd say Tyrion is we can put him at the wall or not. Yeah, either way. What do you think for both situations?
I think if Tyrion goes up to the wall, I think he could back Stannis, right, and help him out a little bit. Right? And I don't want to go too, because there's the book and then there's a TV show, but, Tyrion really falls off as soon as he's told by Jaime about his first wife. I don't know if Jaime still tells him about that. If he, because he's not breaking him out, right?
When would it happen?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think he goes to the wall without knowing this, and maybe Jaime will just put it off, like, I'm heading north anyways. I might go up to the wall and tell Tyrion once he's already taken the black about this horrific thing I helped him and my dad do to his first wife, but I don't think he tells him that. So I think Tyrion still has a good head on his shoulders, unlike he does in Dance. So I think Tyrion helps out Stannis, but the whole southern, King's Landing force, you're saying the Tyrell Lannister alliance, as long as Tywin's alive, I really do think no one can stand a chance with all the resources they have. Stannis does have a shot, but he needs resources. He doesn't have the Iron Bank now. He doesn't have the support of the North. He's literally fighting the North to get it. I don't know where Stannis can get the force unless he somehow is able to ride the wave of the White Walkers. He lets the White Walkers come by and then comes up right behind him, just like lets them sweep through and then comes through. I mean, that's a master play right there.
I won't even talk about that, though, because the White Walkers even passing the wall depends on Daenerys coming over and losing a dragon or whatever. And it's like, and as far as that goes, I mean, Tywin's in charge. Tywin is well aware of what's happening in Essos. Don't you think he has some sort of contingency or some kind of plan active or like ready to be activated to take out Daenerys or something? There's no way he's going to be a sitting duck and let dragons come over here and wipe him out. He knows that Daenerys, the Lannisters and the Baratheons, those are the two that are getting taken out first. And he's right on that list. So I don't even know what happens in that situation.
Yeah, I think Tywin and the Lannister / Tyrell alliance holds against Stannis and the North. There's nothing that can beat them, even when you have the Arryns coming over. And as long as they come in in intervals, I think they're good. If they all come at once, dragons plus the North plus the Littlefinger with the Vale, right? Plus maybe Iron Islanders, who the nastiest house of all time. Plus maybe even Dorne, if Dorne wants its revenge. If they all come at once, I don't know if they can stand a chance. But if they come, one at a time, it's like almost that analogy of what is it? Like how many 10-year-olds could you beat in a fight? It's like if they came one at a time, I think I could take them out. You give me 5 at one time, I'm gonna have my hands full. It's gonna be a little rough.
I mean, even I don't even think it's necessarily.
But dragons aren't a 5 or 10-year-old or anything. But you definitely.
Oh no, I know. But the dragons are what I'm saying. It's like when you say, the Northern Army at 100% strength, it's dragons, and then all these other factors, and then it's like the Northern Army at 99% strength, and then it's just the dragons. You know what I mean? So it's like that. That's really what the factor is. You don't think that Tywin could repel everything at once except Dany? Because I think he could easily between the Reach and the Westerlands and the Crown Lands. There's no way he's not beating an invading army from the Vale, and he also has the Riverlands, by the way, too, at this point. They have the Freys and they have crossing. Frey. Yeah, dude, absolutely. Walder Frey, may he live forever.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this and smash that like button.
Or not, we don't care.